Hey, real quick. So one thing I learned, so next month, I just want to say we have some very exciting people coming here from New York, and they actually run the most popular meetup group that talks about this stuff in the world, the New York Bit Devs. They're actually coming down here, and they're going to run a Socratic type meetup, so I highly recommend coming for the November tab meetup. And it's kind of like New York invades us, and they show us how they run things up there. I think it's going to be really fun. One thing that they do is they go around the room, and obviously feel free to pass. They obviously don't live stream and record their meetups, but you know I don't think we're super focused on privacy here. I mean, but I would just say if you are, just pass the mic and don't feel like you have to do this. But Brandon's going to start, and if you just want to say like one short, quick sentence about yourself, who you are, so then we can get to know who's in the audience for anyone new and to know who people are. So,
hey everyone, I'm Brandon. I work at a little company upstairs called Storage Labs, and I'm a product and engineering manager.
Hey everybody, I'm Johnny in the Telegrams. I will ban you if you shill in the wrong channel.
I'm Scott, and I'm going to pass the mic.
Hey, I'm Tony.
I'm Bill, and I wonder how blockchain is going to change the world. I'm here to learn.
Hi, I'm Stan. I work at Founders Legal.
Hi, I'm Charles, and I've been involved in the community in one way or the other since about 2010.
I'm Emily, and I'm with him.
Hi, I'm Albert. I work at a specialty finance company.
I'm Bert. I'm a real estate developer.
I'm Mel. I develop boring business software.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm retired. I've been doing involved in blockchain for a couple years now.
I'm Brad. I know Mel. I don't know if I'm as boring, but I do. Hey, yes.
I'm Naeem, and I'm interested in learning more about blockchain.
Hey, I'm Kamala, like Kamala Harris. So you don't forget me. I work upstairs, second floor, Intermix. We are a data analytics company. I'm the director of product development there. And glad to see you guys downstairs. So it's easy for me to come, free food, free drinks, and great people. Why not, right?
I'm Jay with Our World Software Services Group, Inc. We are actually a data science company, but lately, in last one and a half years, we have been developing blockchain applications for clients who are trying to get their pilot projects, mostly in supply chain.
I'm Wesley. I work for a Bitcoin payment processor company called BitPay.
One of our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I am a CPA. I work for a firm that helps fintechs and specifically blockchain and crypto-focused companies.
Hi, I'm Zara. I work for Elevate. I am an IT recruiter, and I'm here to learn more. Keep learning more.
Hey, good evening, everyone. This is BJ. I'm from Orlando. I just stopped by. I came to meet a client here and then found this meetup here. I just found and then came in. Nice to meet you all. I'm a co-founder of a software company, Orlando-based, called Datexon. And we develop blockchain and AI solutions in addition to, as usual, mobile and web applications as well. That's about me. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Callista. I work in healthcare, though I'm trying to move into blockchain, and I just started learning JavaScript.
Hey, I'm Bryce. I'm a blockchain application developer. Nice to meet you guys.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a software developer at State Farm, and I'm here to learn about blockchain.
Thanks. Awesome. Hi, I'm Faith. I'm a Shopify developer and also have a digital marketing agency.
So I want to learn more about blockchain and e-commerce.
And she's here with me. Yeah. Hey, by the way, hey, am I here with her? Hey, my name is Ahmad. I'm an infrastructure engineer / SRE. Here for the free food and to learn more. And mining.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Byers. I've been a web developer for the fintech industry for about 15 years. Just here to learn.
Hey, I'm Stephen DeLorme. I do animation, web development, and graphic design for tech companies, R&D, and manufacturing, and just interested in the blockchain, and that's why I'm here.
Hey, my name's Garrett. I'm a full-stack developer for Yellow Card Financial, which is a cash-to-crypto on-ramp for developing markets.
Hi, my name is Ben. I've been interested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for a couple of years.
My name is also Ben, not related. I'm just interested in learning more about blockchain.
This is Malik Yam. I'm with Merchant E-Solutions, a payment processing company, not related to Bitcoins, but interested in understanding more about Bitcoin. That's why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Alan. I'm a technology analyst, so I'm in the advising business, advising companies about areas such as blockchain, Bitcoin, AI, machine learning, and so on.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm from China, and I help run several blockchain businesses in China. And I'm just here for 2-3 weeks, so enjoy it here.
Thanks for coming. Really appreciate you coming here from China to see what we're doing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caleb. I'm just a software developer here to learn, just learning about this stuff, so it's really interesting. Can't wait to learn. So,
And thank you. I'm Michael. I'm one of the founders of the Meetup group. It takes a village to, as well as Atlanta Tech Village. That's one of their slogans. But if you want to get involved with the Meetup group and help run this and help plan a conference that we have planned for next year, just let me know. Hit me up afterwards. I want to be at Twin Peaks afterwards as well. So let me just quickly.
And then one other thing, if your company or if you are hiring or if you're looking for a job, just raise your hand. Okay. If you're looking for a job or you're looking to hire someone, so you guys can find each other after. That's it. Yeah. Or you could find her. Yeah.
There you go. BitPay is also hiring.
BitPay
All right.
is
So
also
if you see you're a sponsor up here and want to say a few words, if you could just line up real quick over here on the right-hand side. Otherwise, I want to speak for you. So Hide.me is a VPN service. They accept cryptocurrency. If you go to our website, meetup.com/theAtlantaBlockchain, the dash is in between those words, you'll see a 35% off discount code. I highly recommend Hide.me. I've been using them for many years. They have servers all around the world. Anyone from Bear Tax here? Okay, so Bear Tax is supposed to chime in on the legal talk. I don't know if they're going to be here, but they help with stuff in and around the legal space with taxes, and they're bearish on taxes, which means they want you to pay the least amount as possible in taxes. Tyrion is a company that helps you timestamp data onto a blockchain. They're using platforms like Ethereum and Bitcoin. It's pretty interesting. I used to actually work there, so if you're interested in using their technology, let me know. We have Bitcoin Depot. They have the most ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs, I think, of any company in the US. If you go to Coin ATM Radar or Google where Bitcoin ATMs are, you'll see their ATMs are everywhere. So make sure to check them out there. I think it's one of the fastest ways to onboard someone that has completely no bank account, no someone from out of town like China, for instance, if they need to buy Bitcoin. All right. Anyways. Gino's Barber, if you like the way my hair is cut, I get my hair cut at Gino's. Actually, you probably need to get a haircut pretty soon. They also accept Bitcoin as payment. So I want to pass the mic over here to PKM.
All righty. Hey, everyone. Andrew again. So I work for PKM, that bottom right triangle. And we recently just joined Wifley. So we are now a national public accounting firm, top 20 firm with our southeastern hub in Atlanta. So what my specific group within PKM Wifley does is we work with financial technology and technology companies, specifically developing things in blockchain and working with cryptocurrency. So as a CPA you just think taxation. We do a lot more than that, so we look at not only bookkeeping and accounting, but we help companies with regulatory compliance. If you work with cryptocurrency, you should know the acronym BSA and AML. If you don't, you should probably talk to me. With taxation, we also help companies do R&D credits. So if you're developing a software or developing a product, you're probably eligible for an R&D tax credit study. And then we look at systems and financial reporting, internal controls. So, thank you.
Hey, I'm James. I work at BitPay. Hello, live stream. This is the best of the blockchain meetups. I don't care what New York says, Michael. This Atlanta blockchain is the best kind of blockchain there is. So BitPay, we're building technology to help you spend and accept Bitcoin payments. So whether you're Microsoft and you want to accept Bitcoin payments for Xbox credits, or whether you want to turn Bitcoin to dollars, buy gift cards with Bitcoin, or spend Bitcoin at Microsoft buying Xbox points, we're facilitating those transactions. And one of the most exciting things we got going on lately is the addition of Ethereum to our platform. So you can now make payments in Ether, the token of the Ethereum network, and we're going to demonstrate that today using BitPay's merchant processing for the EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation. If you go to bitpay.com/demos, you can go test this out yourself. But we're going to do it live right now. You'll see on BitPay you can pay with Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, or Ethereum, Ether. And in this case, we're popping up what it might look like on a website using BitPay to accept payments. Similar to how you might pay with a credit card, you might just choose to pay with BitPay, pay with crypto. So I'm going to pop up my BitPay app here. Unfortunately, we don't have that on the screen, but if you're looking at the screen here, I've got my phone popping open BitPay into an Ethereum wallet, and I'm just really hoping that my phone doesn't die because it's on low battery. And we all know what happens in live demos. So I'm just going to scan the QR code here. What's up, Mike?
There's with live demos, there's always a 20% chance that it'll actually work.
In my experience, it's lower. I have a bad feeling about this. All right. This is like new as of this week. All right. Please remember the password. Thank you. The service here is excellent. Let me tell you, sponsor service is amazing at the Atlanta blockchain. All right, we're signing the transaction. We're broadcasting the transaction. And stand by. Is your sound on, Michael? You might want to have your sound on.
Oh. Yes.
Okay.
We'll hear it. The live stream won't.
Am I on cell data? No, I'm on Wi-Fi. All right, it's broadcasting. That's so. If you can also pay with MetaMask and other, the question was, what does disconnected mean? There are two ways you can pay these invoices. So while we wait on the broadcast transaction to be detected, and boom, there it is. Hey, I love the ding. I love the confetti. Anyway, the question was, what is it disconnected for? There are a few different ways you can go use Ether now at BitPay merchants, all the way from like the Dallas Mavericks to Microsoft to Destiny. Well, not Destiny. You can buy plane tickets. AT&T. You can go pay your Wi-Fi bill. You can use a BitPay app to scan and pay, or you can actually use browser wallets like MetaMask. Any dApp browser-enabled wallet, Coinbase wallet, MetaMask, a few others, you can go and connect and pay. It's a really interesting experience for that, too. Thank you for your time. One more question? Yeah? Question.
Can you ask the question to the microphone?
Hello. When are you guys going to add support for ERC20 tokens?
Stay tuned. Can't tell you that. It's a secret.
Like 1 week?
I don't want to have to
6 weeks?
Disappear you.
Okay, fine.
All right. Stay tuned. Yeah, we'll get the news out for sure. Good question, though.
Hey, thank you, James. Round of applause. It's always amazing that Ethereum works in general. No, I'm just kidding. All right. That was my slight at Ethereum. All right. So let's get going. So we're also, I think Founders Legal is going to lead the charge with the legal discussion in just a little bit, but let me go over some show notes real quick. We have a class called Programming Bitcoin on Tuesdays. Our next chapter is chapter 11. If you want to just jump in, feel free. Don't feel like you have to have been at the previous meets. This is a completely remote, so do not come in person because there is nowhere to meet. We meet on Google Hangouts, and that's posted in our Telegram group. So if you join Telegram, you'll see the Google link, live link, or the Google Hangouts link. On Wednesday, we are doing, so Wednesdays that we don't have this meetup, we're doing Monero, Mastering Monero book. This is a free book online, or you can buy a physical copy. We're only on chapter 2, so you haven't missed really much. The first chapter was just really like an intro into like what the heck Monero is. So don't feel like you've missed anything. You can still come learn what the heck Monero is and how it works and how it's a lot more private at the base layer than Bitcoin. It's very interesting tech. So these are all like free classes, and we usually have free beer. And then the cool part about the Mastering Monero, instead of going like to Twin Peaks, we go to Sweetwater Brewery. That's the thing next door to where we meet. So that's a little bit south of Lindbergh Station if you're taking MARTA or if you're driving there. There's also this really cool group called Atlanta Bitcoin. Bitcoin Atlanta. So if you see John, make sure to talk to John. They usually have ribs and steak and stuff at their meetup, so make sure to check that out. If you know any fancy people, they can fly in because they're located at an airport. So we actually had the first person fly into their meetup 2 weeks ago. We had the first Bitcoin person to fly in. He's like Bitcoin retired. He flew into the Bitcoin Atlanta meetup. So that was really, really fun for him to like come and then blow everything off the tables with his airplane that he actually built himself. So really cool group that they have up there. So if you don't know what Telegram is, raise your hand if you have Telegram. Okay, if you don't have Telegram, get with it, because this is like the new messaging app that everyone's using, and then like 3 years from now, obviously it's going to be something different, but right now it's Telegram. So download Telegram, and then when you do, you can go to Atlanta Blockchain. That's our main group. We have Tab Dev and we have Tab Shill. Actually, if someone can take the live stream link from Twitter and post it in Atlanta Blockchain, I would really appreciate that. That'd be real helpful, so anyone who couldn't make it can watch. But Tab Dev is going to be where we coordinate for those book reading clubs. Tab Shill is for everything else that's like random discussion and shilling. And Atlanta Blockchain is going to be very meetup specific focused. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's ATL_blockchain. So everyone knows what happened today. If you're interested in this space and you have some skin in the game, you probably saw that everything dropped about 8 or 10%. So I thought that was, I don't know. I saw this funny cartoon and wanted to share it with everybody. And that's all I had for this cartoon. But anyways, yeah, I throw random stuff in. Twin Peaks is where we're meeting after this, so that's like next door. Cool part about Twin Peaks, we have the full second floor reserved just for us. So I think like the ideal way of like coming to this meetup is like come here, drink some free beer, go there, eat some food, drink some more beer, and then have someone pick you up at Twin Peaks, and then take MARTA here, so then you're like fully covered. I think that's like the ideal solution. Second solution would be you actually just park it. If you're going to drive here, you just park at Twin Peaks if you know you're going to go there afterwards, and then you can get validated parking, so you don't have to pay for parking here if you know you're going to go there afterwards. And again, that's just walking distance right next door. All right, so on to the legal talk. Stan, if you want to lead the effort. So before I hand off the microphone, I just want to say I think there's a lot of people in the audience that have a lot of ideas and have studied this space in terms of the new IRS tax fork stuff. I know we've talked about it, Bitcoin Atlanta. I just want to say, after Stan's done with maybe like a preamble, we can facilitate a discussion if anyone has questions or wants to add in. So we have another microphone.
And general legal stuff too, not tax related, because there's kind of been a bunch this month. Okay, so earlier this month, I think October 9th, the IRS issued some new guidance around tax. And the way that the IRS has been issuing guidance has been in the form of kind of questions, answers. So in 2014, they issued their first guidance, and it came about 16 questions and answers. And earlier this month, they put out 43 questions and answers. So I just want to go through kind of how I read it, kind of breaking down into 3 categories of good, bad, and the ugly, because there are a lot of gaps. So the IRS, obviously, they treat cryptocurrency as property. And while that seems pretty innocuous, there's a lot of different exemptions and different ways to write off certain transactions. And in their original 2014 guidance, they were kind of sparse, and it showed a very large lack of understanding with how cryptocurrency exactly works. And with the new questions and answers, it shows a little bit of more understanding, but they still show a lack of like just even messing up basic terms like airdrops and hard forks and on-chain versus off-chain transactions. So let me just start quickly with the good. And the good is that they define what fair market value is and what basis is for when you purchase and acquire cryptocurrency. And the reason that's important is because when you want to calculate gains and losses to calculate how much you have to pay in taxes, they didn't tell you when that was, whether it was at the time of receipt, whether it was the time you market bought on an exchange, and if you did it peer-to-peer, right, obviously you're just wallet to wallet, so what is the basis in US dollars? Because at the end of the day, all of your taxes are paid in US dollars. So crypto-to-crypto transactions, for example, they didn't really talk on that. So it's good that they kind of gave definitions to fair market value and how to calculate that, and also basis. And then similarly, you buy in lots or you don't buy and sell all at the same time. And they didn't say how you were to calculate basis based off of when you bought. So say you bought half a Bitcoin and then 6 months later you sold 0.1. They didn't really tell you how to calculate your basis based off of that, segmenting out your different transactions. And so they actually said that you can use first in, first out method or specific identification, which again, this all goes towards what is your calculation for how much capital gains or capital losses you pay. So the bad is that they started talking about airdrops and hard forks, and they kind of mix up the definitions of what exactly is a hard fork and what exactly is an airdrop. But for intents and purposes, they say that a taxpayer has a taxable event the moment the new coins from a hard fork are recorded on the newly forked blockchain, and the taxpayer has dominion and control over those coins. And so dominion and control, basically, it's when you can buy and sell those assets, and that's when you incur tax liability. The problem, though, is that, as many of you know who have forked coins or airdrops, you didn't necessarily want those forked coins, or you didn't want those airdrops. And so by this definition, you would incur a taxable event when those coins hit your wallet. And why do you want to pay taxes on something you don't want? So kind of a better policy outcome to see in the future would be when you can exercise that, when you go to actually sell that, would be a better policy outcome. And that leads me kind of to the ugly part of this, is that they mix up the definitions of hard forks and airdrops. And they're two distinct terms. And so a contentious hard fork obviously creates a whole new blockchain, which allows people to claim those tokens and things like that, whereas airdrops stay on a main chain. And so it probably doesn't matter much from a policy perspective, but it doesn't help with improving clarity around definitions and how people are using terminology in the space, especially when you start thinking about cross-regulators. So the IRS, the CFTC, FinCEN, and the SEC. Right now, even people in the community can't agree on technical definitions, so it doesn't help when regulators are also confused about technical definitions. So that's what I got, and take some answers and discussion.
So I would say also, if you want to be live streamed, you can go up here and ask your question, or you can just ask it from the people.
My question concerns the hard forks question. I saw a little bit about this the other day, and I was wondering, is mere possession of the private keys considered dominion control, or is it like your wallet actually natively supports the balance of the new coin?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that's what I kind of mean by that, like, bad policy decision about just saying when you have dominion and control, because you could get forked coins or airdropped coins, and there's no tradable market for that. So
Sorry, I thought you were done.
Sorry. No, I should have held on to it. I should have held on to it. Just to clarify, say I have Bitcoin private key. I have a Bitcoin wallet. I hold the keys on my app. The Bitcoin wallet software never updates to like give me access to a Bitcoin cash balance or a BSV balance ever. So I never actually like can see the coins, but technically I have the private key that corresponds to a private key on the BSV network and on the BCH network. That seems like a kind of a gray area, but is there any clarity around that?
Elizabeth, did you?
Yeah.
It's effective receipt. So if you have received it,
Yeah.
you can sell it, you can trade it, then that's when you're going to determine fair market value and basis.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can trade it, if you have ownership, you can trade it or you can use it in a buy-sell situation, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's your definition of effective receipt in that point? What I mean is he has the private key, so he owns it, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's my interpretation as well. Yeah.
So my thing would be, I know you're saying it's when, you almost made it seem like when you could sell it, almost like when it was put on an exchange. Or is Dominion control like, hey, I have a private key, so I immediately have the control of this fork or airdrop?
Yeah, and so that's kind of to what she was saying, and that's kind of where I was going with that. The problem with how they define dominion and control versus when you want to actually exercise that and create that taxable, that subsequent taxable event, because you could get it in your wallet, create one taxable event, and then it goes down 90% in value.
Correct. And the problem with that is when you receive it the first time, that is ordinary income. It will be reported to you on a 1099 in box 3, and you'll have to pay ordinary tax on that. Let's say that when you receive it, it has a fair market value worth $10,000, but then it immediately drops to $100. But if you sell it for the loss, you're limited to a $3,000 loss on your tax return, so you're still paying on $7,000 of ordinary income. Now, you'll be able to write off the rest of that over the next couple of years, but it's going to take you, 3+ years to write it off. So there are 2 different tax events. When you receive it, ordinary income. When you sell it, capital gain or loss.
So if you bought at $20K and sold a lot at $3,500, how many years does that take? I'm sorry.
Yeah, unrelated question, but I'm curious whether or not the IRS distinguishes between crypto that you purchased and crypto that was mined. So mined crypto, obviously you worked for it, and in a sense it's a reward.
They do. Yeah, they did that back in the 2014 guidance. And so they kind of consider that like a business gain.
So hey, this is Vamshi from Baytax. So we do automate the calculation of taxes on your calculation of gain loss of your crypto trades using our platform, Bay.tax. So I just want to ask one question on behalf of everyone. So if somebody is doing a selective identification of those things, so what would be the general threshold of like the number of trades you would allow that? So by default, IRS says you can do specific lots or you can do FIFO. But if somebody wants to do a specific identification of lots, so how many would be the trades? Like, is it 100, 1,000, 10,000? So
yeah, there's no limit.
But in general, as a CPA, if you are doing it, so how do you do that?
Actually, it's very difficult. And they did, with the new FAQs that the IRS listed, gave specific ways to calculate it and how to do the record keeping. I've actually done specific identification for my clients, and it saves them about 60% on their taxes. So it's been worthwhile. I mean, it's always been available. It's just that people were being overly conservative about it.
Call me naive, but when I hear specific identification, I think like UTXOs. Is that like outside the ballpark of that discussion?
I'm going to give y'all a great example that I use all the time, okay? I want y'all to think of Jay Leno, okay? He has a bunch of cars, right? And he can buy and sell those cars. Now, I want you to use a little common sense. Do you think the IRS can come in and tell him what car he can buy and sell when? No, they're his assets. So specific identification would be like picking that car and selling it when you want to. He wants to sell the 65 Chevrolet, he can sell the 65 Chevrolet even though he bought it last, or he bought it third, or he bought it fourth. Or if he decides he wants to sell a 50 Buick, he can do that. It's the same thing with your cryptocurrency. It belongs to you. You can identify your Bitcoin by the date and time that you purchased it, date, time stamp, and the lots. That's the best way to do it. But it requires a lot of good record keeping.
So yeah, it sounds like it's arbitrary identification versus like a technical. No,
It's very specific.
It's great, but where it's kind of not though is when they say to kind of look to a block explorer to figure out the exact dollar amount for when you can speak more on that. But that to me, because if you look at the exchanges, there's such a gap between different exchanges. So if you buy it on a certain exchange, but the block explorer, say for example, does its own index of what is the price.
Okay, the IRS has you determine your own fair market value. You're in charge of doing that. The only thing that they request is that you do it consistently, that you do it in a way that every single time you use that same method. Now, a lot of people use a weighted average where they will use several exchanges and weight that out for that particular day. Or, you know, if you want to go to coinmarket.cap and say, hey, I'm going to pick the high of the day, or I'm going to pick the low of the day, or I'm going to pick the open or the close. Whatever you do, you can use it, but you have to consistently use it for every transaction. So you can't use the high when you want to sell and the low when you want to buy. You have to always use the high or the sell. But really, they give you a lot of leeway on that. You just have to, you know, use common sense, and you have to be consistent.
Yeah, something related to that, and back to the previous question about mining. So is it treated the same way then? Like, what's the cost basis for crypto that you receive?
Okay, cryptocurrency is taxed in a couple of different ways. Ordinary income would be if you got an airdrop, or if you mined it, or if you received it for payment. For instance, as an accountant, if I receive Bitcoin for payment for my services, and then that's going to go on a Schedule C for self-employment income. Mining is the same way. You can use it for mining. You can write off some of your expenses when you do that. If you have your own equipment, you can write off what you pay for your equipment, electricity, an office in the home. But if you are buying and selling cryptocurrency as an investment, as an asset, then that falls into capital gains and losses. So there's the difference. And if it's short term, you're going to pay ordinary income tax. But if it's long term, then that's when you get that nice break for the 15% tax rate. All right. All right, I should go up there. I'm sorry, I'm not even dressed for this.
Leave the mic here. Yeah, you can share. Y'all can switch.
I'm not an accountant.
Okay. When you mine or you receive any kind of cryptocurrency as income, the date and time that you receive it is what your income is going to be. So let's say if I received a half a Bitcoin and Bitcoin was selling at $10,000 a Bitcoin, I'm going to claim $5,000 in income on that half a Bitcoin. That is also my basis. Okay? So the moment I receive it, it's constructive receipt. Once again, the moment I receive it is how much it's going to cost. It's $5,000. So that will be the basis. And then once I buy or sell it at that point, then that will determine what my capital gains and losses are. So if I received it at $5,000, then it drops to $8,000, I've actually got a $1,000 capital loss.
Do you mind a quick comment there? One of the things that you said while you were, I'm sorry, what was your name again?
I'm Elizabeth Dodge.
Hi, Elizabeth. I'm
Hey.
Charles. When you were sitting down over here, you mentioned something that that I remembered from a 2018 tax change, and that is, I have two choices when I mine. It's either a hobby, or it's not a hobby. And in a 2018 change, yeah, sure. If it's not a hobby, my burden to pay a bunch of other taxes is different than if it's a hobby income. And if I declare it as hobby income, and I believe in 2018 there was a tax change that says I couldn't deduct my expenses. And that that was a very big surprise, I think, to the mining community. Because before, I could just deduct those expenses, but, the law has changed, and that's somewhat
I
frustrating.
haven't heard that. Peter, I haven't heard that. Mining income, as far as I know, is self-employment income. It's going to be reported on Schedule C.
Yes, if you say self-employment income as opposed to hobby income.
Well, it's, okay.
Yep.
It's
That's the point.
going to be reported on a 1099 miscellaneous on Box 7, which is non-employee income, okay? It's not, if it were reported in Box 3, then you wouldn't have to pay self-employment tax on it.
So
I can't, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what the hobby income, what the rules are for that, but there are dollar amounts involved. But if you're doing it, kind of as a self-employment type thing, I mean, when I say self-employment, it's a business. You're doing it. Why? Why are you mining? Because you're wanting to earn income. So that would be the difference. Now, if you
You're
do,
an evangelist. You're trying to support the network. It's a hobby.
there are many different reasons why it could be hobby income. I'm just only pointing out that in 2018 there was a tax change that says you can no longer deduct expenses for hobby income. It's a very important point, especially to folks in the community.
well, that's true, but you would want to be able to go ahead and use a Schedule C and write it off. You would want to, but I don't know. Peter, do you remember what the dollar amounts are for hobby? He's skipping. I will be honest, I don't remember what the income levels are for a hobby, but you got to kind of be careful when you do that.
Well, my point being is it doesn't matter anymore. You don't want it to be hobby income. You can't deduct any of those expenses anymore.
No.
And that's a frustrating reality to that
like
2018 change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some people mine for the pain, not the gain. Sometimes, it's just, or at least. So I would say, can we just circle any more questions for like the airdrop, forky kind of stuff, or?
So concerning airdrops and fork coins, I feel so those would be considered income typically for just anybody who holds an address. The forked coins and airdrops would be considered income on any addresses.
Yeah.
So this seems like an issue because if someone were to spam, that could create a higher capital gains rate for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Is that talked about at all? Like, I don't know if people are loading airdrops and fork coins on the network, and then you look at your address and there's like a bunch of.
And that's kind of what I mean by like the clarification that I would want to see in language is when you exercise, when you make a conscious decision to sell, buy more, or move it out of that wallet, because I mean, for a lot of people, if you open up your MyEther wallet and you're like, wow, what are these coins? I have no idea where they come from.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of them on like any Ethereum address that
and
holds
they changed one of the tax forms to include a box to basically self-report on yourself that you own cryptocurrency, and that kind of goes into a broader IRS enforcement tactic around voluntary disclosures, and something that has been going on in the broader tax community for much longer. So they're just now bringing some of those enforcement mechanisms and enforcement levers that they can pull on from around offshore banking into cryptocurrency now.
All right. Yeah, done. Thank you.
Can I just make a quick suggestion for anybody listening in the room? If you are confused about the issue with airdrops, income on airdrops or forks or stuff like that, don't want to go through the bookkeeping on this thing, take those coins and donate them charitably to an organization. That organization will be responsible for everything that you've heard about, all the bad that you've heard about tonight.
And that was one of the...
Really, seriously. Take these airdrops and shit coins and contribute them to some organization that wants them.
Yeah, and that But that was one of the questions in their updated guidance was when you donate them to charity, you can do all the charitable donation tax things.
I just wanted to point out a technical challenge. I think that's a great strategy, but as someone who is really steeped in the technology, in order to donate some of those, as you referred to as shitcoins, it means that I have to sometimes use my private key on a chain that may be insecure. So if I have a large cache of Bitcoin and I have a small cache of shitcoin, as you mentioned, I'm not going to risk all of those, and now I need to. And that lack of control is very troubling to me.
I want to ask a quick question. So I also want to ask a quick question of what do you have any speculation on enforcement?
Enforcement for what?
For instance, the people who either maybe you can break this up into two parts. People who do check the box that I have cryptocurrency, and people who don't check the box I have cryptocurrency in terms of the airdrops and forks. Because I'm imagining there's people that do have crypto that aren't going to claim it, and there's people who do have crypto that claim it. But then how? Maybe you can talk about both, like enforcement stuff with that. And if you don't want to comment, I mean, if we don't know, that's okay. But I was just curious.
So a couple years ago, the IRS issued a John Doe summons to Coinbase, trying to collect information on some 20,000 accounts. Coinbase fought back because when you issue a John Doe summons, you have to be kind of specific in the data that you want to gather from that specific company, bank, what have you. And Coinbase said it was overly broad. Is kind of fishing expedition, but ultimately I think they wound up giving up data on some 10,000 accounts. So that's definitely a John Doe summons is what the IRS can lean on. And then this past year, they issued 3 educational letters to people that they suspected had cryptocurrency holdings of a certain amount and were not reporting them properly to the IRS. So that's kind of been their method, and they'll probably ramp up.
Okay, so I just want to time box this 5 more minutes and before we move on. So we'll save discussion for Twin Peaks. So Elizabeth, feel free to continue. I'm just saying, if you want.
No, what do you want me to?
Yeah, I'm just saying 5 more minutes, and then we're going to move on. Yeah.
Sure, like I was one of those 10,000 people. So yeah, to answer your question, like whenever somebody can spam you with all their coins to incur capital gains or losses for you, but they can't force exchanges to get a value for that coin. So unless a coin has a value that can be verified on a coin market cap or any other exchange, they don't have a value. So even though somebody airdrops you tons of coins, you don't have a value for that unless it's legit, it doesn't go on an exchange, it doesn't get a value, so you're good there. And yeah, and there are like, apart from those 3 letters, there are also 2 more notices that were sent based on the reports that they got from those 10,000 users. Those are like CP2000 and CP2501. So those are the things that you have to like get back to the IRS saying like what you have to report on your cryptocurrency holdings. So
would one of y'all be able to sit down? I want to bring someone else up.
Sure. We can both sit down.
Hey, can we get a round of applause real quick for Stan and Elizabeth? You want to come? We have someone else that wants to get up in front and say a couple things, and we're going to time box this, like I said. So.
Yeah, no worries. I won't talk your ear off. But I've been involved in the community since very early on, but usually just behind the scenes. So I usually don't get up here and talk about these types of things. But there is something about the guidance that just came out that does concern me a bit. And I've been working behind the scenes for some time. The American Bar Association sent a letter to the IRS. A couple of bills were submitted into Congress, one last year providing safe harbor, and one this year as well. But they're not going to get out of committee, and that's a difficult challenge. The good news is that here in Georgia, 2 of our congressmen are on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, for those of you who don't follow those types of things, what that means is those are the individuals who are empowered to do something about this. And in order to turn this into something that I think is very meaningful, I wanted to walk you through a mental exercise around forks and around airdrops. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm not saying that internally as a US taxpayer that this feels right. But as I read that guidance, what it says is that an airdrop or a fork is income. And those words are meaningful to a lot of the folks in this room. Something that's very meaningful about that is it's not a gift. It's income. And income is not something that you can turn away from. If your company provides you a salary and you get a check, you can't just turn that check away and say, well, I'm not going to cash it. The IRS says, I don't care if you cash it or not. You still have to pay taxes on it. So when I take this and I think about it, two things come to mind. The first is, if you own cryptocurrency, someone else is now empowered to cause you a lot of problems. And as I think through all of the challenges, a very intelligent individual in the back suggested, yeah, go ahead and give that off to someone else, right? Give those cryptocurrencies over to someone else. And I think as a technologist, well, wait, hold on a second. That's going to cause me some problems as I take my private keys and I expose them on this other chain. And when I expose those private keys on that other chain and I put together a transaction in some of those private chains or some of those other chains, that same exact transaction could be bundled up and used on my chain and put somewhere that I don't want it to go. But let me turn this into something that's more meaningful to your friends and your family. And if you talk to them about it, you can say, hey, if you don't even own cryptocurrency, this could be meaningful to you as well. So let me just walk through a mental exercise that I've walked through. We've just established that forks and airdrops are income. They're not gifts, and you can't walk away from them, even if you don't want to have anything to do with those cryptocurrencies, right? Let's assume for a moment that you don't want anything to do with any cryptocurrencies, but there's someone out there, because you're a politician or because of whoever you are, you have some enemies. Maybe you have some friends too, but you're now a target. Can someone use this against you? And I'd say yes, someone could. And let me walk you through what I think that looks like. Let's say for a moment, here, all of us have decided to create a cryptocurrency. It's our very own cryptocurrency. What's something that we're going to do with this cryptocurrency? We're going to give it away to folks because we want other people to use it. It's very natural. But you don't need to have a private key in order to create a form of control and delivery around that cryptocurrency. All we need is something in the public domain about that individual that allows them to take control over it. And just to get your ideas flowing in this area, I'll just throw out a couple of ideas. One is, I could create a cryptocurrency where if you have a phone and it is registered to a carrier, I could create some software that says, hey, if I get a text message from you, I can verify that it is really you, and now you can have control over the cryptocurrency that I airdropped to you. Another is, we use cryptographic signatures when email systems are communicating back and forth. And I know a lot of public figures who have their email address prominently displayed, and they have control over those email addresses. And if they use cryptographic security behind the scenes to ensure that they're verifying who owns that email address server, well, we have a way to say, you now have control. So I want to take that back through this mental exercise and say to you that the interpretation of airdrops and forks is a bit more dangerous than just something that folks in the cryptographic world need to worry about. And the reason why I think that's important is because I have a call to action. There are bills that have been put in place. There are safe harbor bills that say, hey, you know what? We know this is a complicated issue, and we know that we're not going to get this right the first time. So let's go ahead and put this issue in safe harbor, which there's a precedent for. We as a community of taxpayers have done this before and created safe harbor. But the challenge right now is getting that bill out of committee. Right now, the bill has to be modified because the IRS commented on it, and there was a statement in the bill that said this bill is valid until the IRS comments on it. So that needs to be modified. But we now have a duty then to talk to our congressmen. And like I said, there are 2 congressmen. If you're a Democrat, good news. There's a Democrat from Georgia that sits on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, if you're a Republican, there's still good news. There's a Republican who sits on the Ways and Means Committee, and he's from Georgia. So that's the mental exercise I wanted to take you guys through. I feel very passionate about it. I have been working behind the scenes quite a bit, but I think it's time to get in front of folks and say, hey, this really does need to change. And if you have a conversation with someone who's not in the cryptographic world, yes, this can impact them too, especially if they have enemies. I can conceive a world where we together in this community create a cryptographic, a crypto coin, and then we give it to individuals, and either because of what we've done intentionally or accidentally, we have now created a huge tax burden. And I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. What did you say your name was? Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was walking us through how you may have a huge tax burden now with a serious cash burden to pay that over. And yeah, that's great that you can write some of it off year after year, but maybe you can't afford that this year. And if we want to engineer it so it's big enough, maybe it's going to cause you a serious problem. So once again, I wanted to repeat my call to action. And if anyone was interested in talking to me about it, I'll stay afterwards. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it too. I'd be happy to go over to Twin Peaks as long as my wife nods her head and says yes. And we can talk about it there too. I feel very uncomfortable calling politicians out in a public space, but it's very easy to Google Ways and Means Committee in Georgia and find out who those politicians are. And even if those representatives aren't your representatives, what I have found is calling your representative and your senator and telling them that this is important means that they need to go talk to those individuals, and they will. So I wanted to call that out to you as well.
Can we get a round of applause? Complete improv right here. So thank you so much. Did anyone, by the way, see what Bruce Fenton did? So Bruce Fenton made a tweet saying, I forget who, but he's like, hey, by the way, I just forked and airdropped this stuff, and I sent it to all the IRS people that are like in control of this stuff. And by the way, so y'all can figure it out too. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I think we should probably definitely stay up to date with this kind of stuff, especially for the people who have a little bit of skin in the game and want to follow this. So I think every few months we should maybe see if anything changes, because I know this is probably important to a lot of people here. So again, thank you. So one thing I do want to say, one thing that you brought up that was like the technical security issues. I know what a lot of people did with like Bitcoin Cash is they would like physically, or not physically, whatever, metaphysically, they would split their coins and then use, so you wouldn't be using the same private key on both chains. So then you would use your old private key to then claim your Bitcoin Cash, and then your new one would have your still the unforked Bitcoin kind of thing. So that might be one method to solve that, but it's not like 100% proof, right? Yeah. Okay, so the question was, how many forks are out there? Does anyone want to just throw out a number? Apparently there's 3 forks. 300 forks. There we go. More. We'll stick with 300. Okay. You're all yeah. Okay. So that was cool. So the next topic that we're gonna really hit is some interest in loan platforms that are getting fairly popular. So this was questions and comments, but here you got this. So we're gonna have Peter come up and do this, and then we're gonna talk about interest loan platforms, and then we'll bring that open for question and answer. And after this, we're going next door. So all right, here you go, Peter. Yeah, Peter.
Woo! Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, real interesting meeting so far. At least 2 topics we've talked about. And, as I introduced myself earlier tonight, I'm retired. And I spent the past 2 years learning about Bitcoin or blockchain. And this is my career. It's basically unpaid, even though I work with the AICPA, educating the CPA profession on blockchain at this point. So that is about my only source of income from blockchain at this point, but hey, we're all hoping for more in the future. Hey, I want to talk about distributed finance tonight. And And distributed finance is something that's brand new. It's I'll get into it in a couple seconds, but I want to read you the warnings first before we go through this thing. This is for informational purposes. I've been a CPA also. This is for informational purposes. I don't want any of you guys suing me. If I give wrong information. Neither Tab nor any of the presenters have any personal or financial interest in what I'm going to be talking about. To my knowledge, none of these entities that I'm going to be talking about this evening are regulated. And the parties that you may be dealing with may actually be bad actors. So year-end tax reporting on these entities is also unknown. It's your responsibility to learn how to account for these investments and report your earnings if you have any. And then finally, as any investment advisor will say, thoroughly research any project mentioned in here that you have any intention of going forward with. The DeFi movement, distributed finance, is a movement that leverages the decentralized blockchain networks to transform financial products into decentralized, trustless, transparent protocols that run without intermediaries. What that means is that these distributed financial networks intend to take the tasks over that Merrill Lynch or any other brokerage firm or banks or any other financial intermediary has performed in the past. Whether they're successful is another matter, but these financial products run pretty much as smart contracts programmed in Solidity. There's a Solidity programmer in the room. Cheers to you. And EOS and Bitcoin rootstock are involved in this to some degree, but they don't have much of a presence. It's probably a factor of 10x where these distributed financial networks are running on Ethereum. Tron has some smart contract capabilities, but it's not been applied to the DeFi movement at this point. We're going to talk about two different, since I have a short period of time, we're going to talk about two different projects. One is DeFi Prime, which I'm going to try and just bring up here for you real fast. I'm going to go back. How do I go back on this, Mike? I'm sorry. I just want to go back. Yeah, I want to get out of the web browser and back to the presentation manager.
Right here.
Okay.
Boom.
So DeFi Prime. This is the first one. This is a good landing page for you guys to go to, where you can learn about the distributed financial products. In general, what the landing page has here is it shows you over 200 different products. For example, there's 15 different types of platforms for lending. You can read the numbers yourself. You should go to DeFi Prime if you want to use this kind of a landing page and learn about the projects that are behind here. If we had more time, we're going to go into a couple of them, but we don't have enough time here tonight. One of the prime areas of DeFi Prime is you have the ability to earn interest on any crypto that you may deposit with them. And at this point, DeFi Prime is paying somewhere around 7.5% for lending stable coins to their platform. They have different rates for different kinds of things, and that 7.5% compares to, what you get for your money in a bank, what you'll get on Vanguard CDs or Vanguard real estates or Spider investment products. So that's just kind of a way of looking at it. Whether, of course, with a higher interest rate, you may be achieving higher risk reward. You may be achieving higher risk levels also. So that's why I'm saying always look at these products. If you go into any of these products, before you give them one Satoshi or whatever it is you're going to give them, research them really well and try and understand, what's at risk with you. DeFi Pulse is another of the landing pages for understanding some of these projects that are out there. The difference between DeFi Pulse and Prime is that DeFi Pulse has podcasts and newsletters that you can read from. So you'll possibly have a better depth of information that you can learn from there. And the DeFi Pulse landing page shows you at this point they have somewhere over $500 million of value that's locked into their platform. So that's a big amount of money. And just some of the things they have lending platforms. They have 2 lending platforms here. They have a third one down here, which is synthetic derivatives. Synthetic derivatives can be anything. You can deposit Bitcoin, and you have the ability to have an equity, not an equity interest, but have an interest in all kinds of different things that fork off from there. But read about, if you're interested in any of these things about derivatives or lending, read through the site there. So I'm just wrapping it up real fast. Real short introduction, as I said at the beginning. There's lots of distributed financial products, projects that are out there, and you should definitely start learning about these things. So, kind of an idea was, if anybody has any interest in thinking about some of these projects that are going on, possibly we can get together, in a tab meetup, or some sort of a meeting on a Tuesday night or something like that somewhere in the future, where we go through a bunch of these projects and understand what's going on, so you can understand DeFi from a higher level. Okay, and also inform tab, about your learning in this area if you decide to go into this kind of thing. Okay, thanks, guys.
Hey, so I'm here for the second opinion on these types of platforms. So thank you so much, Peter. So just FYI, the way we chose DeFi, has anyone ever heard of DeFi before coming here? Okay, so DeFi is a fairly new term for myself. It's kind of catchy, DeFi, decentralized distributed finance. But we kind of just came up with this topic on a whim. So if you have something that's really interesting to you in the blockchain space, quote unquote, just let us know and we'll cover it. You can cover it. We can fly someone in to cover it. Let's talk about stuff that we're actually interested in. I would say from month to month, our topics vary greatly from technical to business. So if you're interested in something, let's talk about this. So I also did a little bit of DeFi research, and probably not as deep as Peter, but I kind of thought it would be interesting to give you a little bit of my thoughts on this. So my first thing was Googling DeFi stuff. So the way I learned about this was from Peter McCormick's interview with Eric Voorhees, and Eric Voorhees saying that he was interested in DeFi. I was like, what's DeFi? So this is what I came up with is DeFi is a movement that leverages decentralized networks to transform old financial products into trustless and transparent protocols that run without intermediaries. We have 202 DeFi projects listed and 184 of them built on Ethereum. So it almost seems like DeFi is like a platform conglomerate of like collections of projects too. Almost like, it reminds me of like Apache. You know, how Apache has like a suite of, open source technology. Is that how you would kind of look at it? That DeFi is like a collection of, behind you. Yes, you. Does anyone know who Trendon Shavers is? Can you raise your hand? Trendon Shavers? Early guy? Trendon Shavers? All right, so Trendon Shavers was the first person to do lending loan interest platform in the blockchain space, okay? So he also operated the largest scam in Bitcoin history. He operated a Ponzi scheme which initially promised a guaranteed of a daily profit of 1%. Daily compounded. Can't beat that. And for the most part, Trendon Shavers was always seen as like the bad guy, like the guy who ran away. Like if you Wikipedia him, you're going to find that he's like a Ponzi scammer or whatever, but he's actually the guy who kind of got screwed in this situation. So this is me just trying to give you interesting history of the lending space, and I'm starting all the way back with Trendon. Trendon actually spent time in jail. He's out now for running a Ponzi scheme, and the reason he was running a Ponzi scheme is because he actually lost a fair bit of Bitcoin where he did bad accounting where people weren't paying back their loans or whatever, and essentially he had fractional reserve. Now, if a bank does fractional reserve at any point in time, it's fine because that's the law grants banks the permission to do fractional reserve. But as soon as Trendon did fractional reserve, he was running a Ponzi scheme. So so he was doing something illegal as soon as he didn't have full reserves for his lending loan interest platform, which is kind of interesting. That it's like if you try to essentially do what a bank does, which is fractional reserve, you're legally running a Ponzi scheme. Is that incorrect? I want to say that's pretty hardcore what he was saying in the podcast that he got interviewed with a long time ago. But yeah, so you can actually Google Trendon Shavers and see the SEC case. Yeah. Something that's interesting, just a tidbit. This isn't really much to do with anything specific that Peter went over, but one thing that Trendon would notice is if a lot of people had loans in Bitcoin out, if the price of Bitcoin like doubled from I think $5 to $10, like almost no one would pay back. This is early, like 2010. So no one would pay back their loans. They would default essentially. So what he would do is he was considered to be like one of the first whales on exchanges. He would purposely sell almost all of his Bitcoin to keep the price low, thousands and sometimes I think tens of thousands of Bitcoin to try to keep the price low so people could pay back their Bitcoin loans. And then as soon as he got them back, he'd be like, "Oh, thank God, I almost ran out of Bitcoin to keep the price low." And he was telling stories once where he had I think like 100,000 or hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, trying to push the price of Bitcoin down, but there's so much up pressure, and he was like the only person selling, trying to keep the price low, and he was almost down to his last couple thousand of Bitcoin, and he was like, if this goes, no one's going to pay back their loans, and I'm going to be all out of Bitcoin. And there's a lot of like scary moments with when he did this. He finally started using this system of reputation, where if you want to get a loan, you for collateral reasons, you had to have like a reputation. You had to have like someone else hop in that could put some of their skin in the game and vouch for you. And if you default, then he takes money from you and some of your partners. But what people were doing, especially one in particular, I think his name was Mr. Big. That was his username. All these people were anonymous. He was spinning up multiple accounts, acting as reputation for himself, and essentially ended up scamming Trendon Shavers and took him for a lot of Bitcoin and never paid back his loan. And that was like the final scam. I think Trendon Shavers was like in Vegas celebrating his anniversary or honeymoon or something, and he got raided by the FBI at Vegas. So I think that's the story there with Trendon. So that was the first lending interest platform in Bitcoin. So I started doing some research, like, okay, well, I knew about that one, but let's see what's going on with all this DeFi, because what does DeFi mean? And don't read this slide because it's really bad. I didn't put much effort into this. But I mean, pretty much like if you can get rid of the middleman with an interest loan platform, that's kind of interesting, because then you get rid of the trend and shavers, right? You get rid of the fault, the scammy, you get rid of like any potential VIG that's taken by the actual middleman, and then the other cool part is you have maybe a more sound system that is a little bit more tamper resistant from people trying to scam the system. But it's like, really, how do you do that? So I just have like some random notes up here of things I looked into. But one of the ones that I looked into first. So who's heard of BlockFi? Okay, so if you've ever listened to Peter McCormick, he's talking about BlockFi. They talk about 8.6. I think this is BlockFi's. BlockFi interest account. So apparently, if you put your cryptocurrency with BlockFi, you'll get 8.6 annual compounding. I think daily or weekly. Now, so it's hard for me to recommend these things, and I wouldn't say anything with like a central authority middleman is going to be any more trustworthy, or isn't going to like fall apart completely, because I think like most of these platforms can't be like insured, and even if they are insured, I mean, as you know, even if you have insurance, right? If you get hacked a certain way, the insurance might not cover it. I'm sure you're kind of aware of that kind of situation, right? So you could potentially lose millions of dollars, and if your insurance doesn't cover the specific way you got hacked or you got defrauded, then even though some of these companies purport to be insured, that I would say until there's been some cases where insurance has paid up, I wouldn't count on it. Essentially, is what I'm getting at. I'd also one of the things I always tell people, dear friend to us, is if you put, let's say, a lot of Bitcoin onto these sites, and it's going to take you 7-8 years to make back your to be playing essentially with the house's money, or make 100% or whatever. And if you want to risk it for that long, I mean, if you think about it, this could be going great for 2 or 3 years, and if you have one kind of slip up on one of these kind of ideas, you lose everything, right? So I just want to make sure people understand the risk when it comes to these things. That's why I'm actually interested in the decentralized finance, because it's a little bit more like, okay, well, yes, this is a little bit more like, okay, there's rules, and the rules can't be arbitrarily changed. I think that's maybe a little bit interesting. One thing to note when you do get loans, it's like, well, okay, first thing I think is interesting. Yeah, it makes sense. I give you my Bitcoin. That's the first mistake. But anyways, you give them your Bitcoin, and then they give you some of your Bitcoin back every once in a while. Okay, yeah, sounds great, right? In the wild, wild west of crypto, that sounds awful. But anyways, I think it's more interesting. Well, how do I take out a loan? Like, how do I just get free money, and then you're going to take my word? Like, how do I do that? Well, a lot of these platforms, you're not really taking out a real loan, like per se. You have to like really, the assets that you're going to put up, the collateral is going to be actual. It's going to be like cryptocurrency. So it's like my real question is, well, a lot of these platforms are ways to take loans against yourself, which make me kind of wonder, well, if you're going to take loans out against yourself, why is there this interest component? Well, to me, those are just two separate verticals. And at first, I thought people were giving loans to certain people, but really, if you have to stake all the collateral, then this is, to me, kind of a facade. And I'd love for someone to correct me on that later. Maybe that's more Twin Peaks kind of talk for people who have actually participated in these things. But does that make sense? Is what I just said? Oh yeah. Hey, Brandon.
I mean, I'm not sure in the US, but in a lot of places, people put gold in the bank and take loan for their gold. So this is BlockFi, we have partnered with them, so I'm telling with that experience. So this is kind of that scenario where you have a Bitcoin, but you have a liquid cash necessity.
Yeah.
So you have to pay someone, pay your taxes itself.
They're essentially providing a service.
Yes.
Which isn't related to their interest platform at all, it seems like.
Two-way. It's same like a bank. So bank takes your deposits and pays you interest. On the other end, they lend to somebody and take interest from them. So here is the same. So they take Bitcoin and give you cash. And for others, like if you have more Bitcoin and you're just putting it in your wallet, so you can just store it there and earn interest on it. So it's two sides of
So
that.
what's your thoughts on if they get hacked and lose a bunch of Bitcoin?
Uh,
What happens then?
banks can, it can happen
Well, with
the
banks,
too.
they're FDIC insured. I mean, if you
Yes.
get hacked in the traditional
So-
finance space, you can get stuff reversed. And what do you do in this where things are immutable, right?
We are early adopters, so we have to take these risks for the next generation to trust these platforms.
Okay.
I'm not advocating them, but just saying.
Yeah, so I've taken a look at these in the past, and I have a very specific question. So, like BlockFi and a couple others I'm familiar with, they hold them in with a trust that is insured. And you mentioned Gemini, yes. So I didn't want to call out anything specific, but they're insured. So if Gemini gets hacked, the idea is that you get your insurance back and your insurance money, and if even if the insurance can't pay, then hopefully the Winklevoss twins can use their extensive holdings of cryptocurrency to finally pay you back. Here's my question, though. My question is, BlockFi says BlockFi says on their website that your holdings are senior to their stock, meaning if they go out of business, you get paid first before they do. But my question is it senior to other debts that the company owns, the company has? Are you getting paid before their mortgage gets paid or before some creditors come after them? And I was curious if any of the legal folks in the room had an answer to that.
My gut is you're not getting paid, no matter what it says. But I would love for someone else to comment. Do you? Wait, hold on. We can give you the mic. Hold on. If you first.
I was going to say, around that, when you securitize certain loans, it depends around, it's UCC Article 9, if anyone wants to look at that. But that's generally where you would look around who has priority.
So the question then is whether or not it's securitized and how it's securitized.
Right, and depending on the time and the method and what is the underlying goods also depends on the priority.
Okay, thanks for that.
Did you want to make a comment, or are you good? Okay. So I would just say that's fine and dandy. Let's say all the insurance and everything's secured. I mean, the one thing that's to me kind of scary is some of these things are like you get your interest in the coin, so you'd get paid interest in Bitcoin. But I think one thing that's really important to note, there's only so many Bitcoin, right? There's only like, I mean, at some point, I mean, I know you said the Winklevoss twins might pull into their stash, but they're probably not. But I mean, the thing is you can't pay like any kind of guaranteed interest on a finite supply of currency. Now, if you have like a floating and you have a fiat dollar that's always gaining interest, you can print more, and then that's maybe a different story. But I just want to give you caution to that. If you're getting paid interest in the actual coin, and there's only a finite amount of coin, well, that can only go on so long, right? So, anyways, all right. So BlockFi. Oh, yeah, Peter.
Hey, Mike. I have the understanding that if you lend your Bitcoin to BlockFi, that BlockFi takes that cryptocurrency and brokers it out to a firm that's doing shorts against cryptocurrency.
That would be smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then
that's how they earn their money to pay to you. And for me, as a person who is hodling hard, I don't ever want to see somebody selling Bitcoin into the market. I want to hodl hard. I want everybody to be in the same boat as
we need shirts that say "hodl hard."
Yeah, hodl hard.
Hard Rock.
But I mean, that's how BlockFi is making their money.
Yeah. So I would say I would say their methods, as long as they don't get hacked, are probably okay. But as soon as someone gets hacked, all these things go out the window. I just want to make sure. I think that's why I'm also interested. Like I said earlier, maybe Eric Voorhees was talking about some Ethereum platforms that do some of these things, where it's like maybe a smart contract that does the process of loans and interest. I think that's interesting. But then again, it's like, well, how do you ensure, a blockchain, a purely blockchain asset, and then you have to have kind of like something between the wet and dry space, and it gets a little sticky there. But all right, I want to keep moving because we're going long, and I would say I'm probably going to say a lot of things that are incorrect, so correct me later, please. I just want to show you, this is a quick chart to show how BlockFi is better than their competitors. And this is just stuff I was researching. You can stake your Ethereum, your Bitcoin with them. And I'd be really interested if you want to come up to me later and you are using BlockFi, tell me what your experience has been so far. As you can see, this is some of the user interface. This is to show you that JP Morgan Chase is all the way to the right, if you can't read that, and it's pretty much saying you don't get any interest there. And then this is now Celsius promoting their little spreadsheet about how they're better than everyone. And Celsius is better than BlockFi according to Celsius. Who would have thought? Would anyone who does use, would anyone like to publicly share, or? Okay. Would you like to publicly share?
Okay. There's a platform called Atomic Loans. I don't know if you talked about that, but it actually locks your Bitcoin. So it's like in a pilot phase right now. I don't think it's like publicly released, but you put your Bitcoin. I think it's a time lock, basically, is what it is. So you determine like the length of the loan, and it's like 30 days, right? That's locked up, and then like that's released. Yeah. So right now it's DAI, so it's using Ethereum's stablecoin DAI. So, but I think in the future they're going to have USDC. But
yeah, that's one thing I noticed is DAI and MakerDAO is used on a lot of these different platforms for interest and stuff. Hey, thank you. That's interesting. MakerDAO and DAI is like the floating currency, and Maker I think is their stable coin. Or yeah, other way around. Duh. Yeah, everyone knows. So I would also like to say we had people talk about loan interest platforms, and this was people coming up to me and telling me how wrong I was about BitConnect. So we actually had people from this meetup. They're not here anymore. I don't see them, but they used to come up to me and tell me how BitConnect was like a good platform to make interest. And I think BitConnect was offering about 1% daily compounding interest as well. That's like a red flag. 1% daily compounding interest, even if it's legit, don't trust it, because that's just, I mean, at least the scams are getting smarter now, where it's like not guaranteed interest. The scams are getting much more sophisticated. It's like, hey, instead of 1%, we should like make it like, well, we'll change it every once in a while. It'll be floating based on what Bitcoin does, so it'll look like we're actually doing something. Yeah, that's a scam I would get into. But BitConnect, I think was it'd slightly be a floating rate based on what Bitcoin was doing, so it couldn't guarantee, but it would try to target 1% daily. Yes, sir.
Sharing my experience, like in 2017 December, probably New Year 2018, I invested like 100K on Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And pretty recently, I just sold them and got 20K back. 1,400 was Ethereum, and now it's less than 140. So my question is, like, whenever
Sorry.
I see, oh, thank you. So whenever I see this, something like DeFi saying that there are 184 applications that are based on Ethereum. So like if so much of Ethereum projects are going on, so many, and so much of gas consumption is there, like in Ethereum, any application, any blockchain application needs to like consume some gas. So if that kind of a demand is there, why is my Ethereum still less than 140 from where it was 1,400?
That is a great question, but one that we should have over beers.
Peter.
I would love that's a little bit off topic, but I really like that question, but we'll probably take that offline if that's cool with you. Okay. Yeah. So stick around afterwards, and that's like an upstairs Twin Peaks kind of discussion that we can all, come together with. Yeah. All right. So back to this. I just want to say, like, BitConnect was like this big thing that went on, huge scam. Does anyone know this guy? So we're going back. We started with Trend and Shavers. Anyways. This is after he went to jail. No, this is so. Does anyone know who this guy is? There you go, Madoff, Bernie. So Bernie, if you remember this guy, so these Ponzi schemes don't have to. I know this wasn't necessarily like an interest loan kind of platform, but I just want to say like Ponzi schemes exist in all different types of industries and all different types of shapes and forms, whether it be blockchain or not. And I really don't want any of the people close to my heart, everyone here, to get scammed. So I would just want to say, make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure, make sure you don't lose everything. There you go. And never send me Bitcoin over Telegram. That is not me. I will never ask you for Bitcoin. That is a scammer. So I also want to say the biggest bubble, and we're going back now 300 years, the biggest bubble ever was the South Seas bubble by the South Seas Company. Has anyone heard of that? Cool. So this is, if you heard like tulip mania and like all the tulip bulb stuff, that's all crap. That's like maybe that was only for like 3 months, and who knows what really happened because it wasn't really documented too well, and it's like based off of like what one guy said. The South Seas bubble was like super real, and it was super big, and it was super crazy, and this like consumed like the whole like this one company's Ponzi scheme consumed like the whole like wealth of like Great Britain or something at one point, and it was pretty insane. So I just want to say these South Seas bubble, like the Ponzi's and bubbles can come at you in all shapes and forms. That's what I'm trying to warn you about. USD coming soon. All right. So from the audience, this bubble is equivalent to a $7 trillion Ponzi scheme in today's money. Okay, so that was it. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you. So I will just say, when you are making interest, be careful. Try to use the more decentralized ones that aren't using permission. Hey, we have a giveaway. Don't leave yet. Do you have a ticket? Red ticket? People don't have red tickets. All right. Brandon. Wait, Tara. All right, people who don't have red tickets, raise your hand. You're going to be eligible. Oh my God, look how many people.
I don't know, I must have dropped the ball or something on that.
This is an airdrop.
All right, hey everybody, Chris with Protecting Coin. We do hardware wallets, we do cold storage, we do consulting, etc. Simmer down now. We're gonna see who can win. All right, so we're gonna be giving away a couple cold storage coins. We've got a Bitcoin, BTC. We also have an Ethereum coin. So these, think of it like a piggy bank or a gift card. You can load it, hand it to someone. They don't have to know how a hardware wallet works. They don't have to know about exchanges. You hand it to them, and that's the transaction. They can sweep it at a later time. So if you have questions about it, come see me. I also have videos online on how to use them. These are empty because I am not a money transfer service. I am not a money transfer service. But when you give it to them, that's a good question. You'll have to talk to one of the CPAs in the room. Does that fall under the gifting? Okay. Now, when they sell it, do they count that as a $0? So tell them not to sell it until it's worth enough that they can buy an island and not worry about it. All right. First number is 215-8800. 00. Are you? No. Oh, I'm sorry. 8800. All right. You can take a pick, Ethereum or BTC. All right. I was rooting for you. All right, next one we have 215-8813. 13, lucky 13. All right. All right, there you go. All right, thank you all.
So we're going to Twin Peaks, upstairs, second floor. It's within walking distance, just down here. So please leave immediately and go to Twin Peaks, second floor, for extra networking and discussion. Thank you.